How's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to take you through my second back day of the week. Now, my last training cycle, you saw one of my back days. That was the first one, and I have made some modifications, and we'll probably post that back workout up in a few weeks. But I wanted to show you what my vertical pulling focus day looked like. So this video I chose to do a little bit differently. Normally I will talk while I train, but sometimes I feel like that takes away from the training, and also I can't really think super thoroughly while I'm training as I'm focused on recovering and executing the set and whatnot. So I'm going to try to actually watch the footage now after and kind of talk you through what I was thinking, what I was doing, in order to potentially give you a little bit more insight. Now, if you like this type of video, please leave a comment, like the video and whatnot, so I know that you maybe would like to see more of these videos in the future. On my vertical pull focus day is going to be a neutral grip pull-up. Now, last training cycle, I tried a pull-up. It wasn't neutral grip, it was like semi-pronated, so it was like here, and I just wasn't getting a great SFR in my back, stimulus to fatigue ratio, if you aren't familiar. So I wasn't getting a good amount of pump disruption, and it was more of just contributing volume that wasn't really beneficial a whole lot. I was having trouble progressing the exercise as well. So I knew from previous training cycles that the neutral grip, because I'm a little bit stronger, and can do a little bit more on the neutral grip, it tends to be a little bit more productive, and I know that I get a good pump in just a few sets doing this variation. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually pulling up to like mid to lower pec and actually touching my mid to lower pecs to the bar so I can standardize my technique. I'm trying to control the eccentric and lower really slow. I ended up doing about 3 sets. That's what it took for me to get a good amount of pump in my back and really feel that it was working. The next exercise I went on to was a lat prayer myo rep match. Now, I've explained myo rep matches so many times on this channel, so you can go back and watch any of my old videos if you want to see me explain that. But what I noticed is with the lat prayer myo rep match really messes up my lats, gives me a crazy pump, and only a few sets. I think I only ended up doing 1 set, and I actually didn't do the myo rep match this week. I did 1 straight set of 20, and my lats were so pumped that I chose to walk away. The idea behind this is that in your first week of training after a deload, you're so sensitive to muscle growth and you get such a good amount of stimulus doing a lower amount of volume that it doesn't make sense to really try to destroy yourself. You essentially want to get the most out of the least, and as you adapt over a training cycle, you add volume as needed to uphold the stimulus. So I only did 1 set here. As I am coming into the stretch, I'm actually bending closer to parallel with the floor in order to emphasize the stretch. And I actually bring my torso up slowly into the shortened position because I just feel it's better in my lats. So like I said there, 1 straight set of 20. Next exercise is, so I had, this workout is really similar to what I had in the last training cycle. I made a variation of pull-ups, so I'm doing more of a neutral grip. Kept the lat prayers in, but added 5 pounds, and those probably will get stale at the next training cycle, so this is probably the last I can use them, at least with the myo rep match intensity technique. And then this machine row, unfortunately, is probably my last mesocycle with it, because at this point, I have it pretty much maxed out with a gym pin. On my first day, I have like a 25 and a 10, and there's no more weight I can actually fit on the machine without it hitting the handle. So I'm just trying to get the most out of it, squeeze the last bit of it, because it's such a great back machine. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a drop set. Last training cycle, I believe I did a giant set. A drop set is another metabolite technique, but it's just a little bit different of a variation so that I'm not running the same training variation training cycle after training cycle, because we tend to adapt to these metabolite type techniques very frequently, really quickly. So drop set, I think I do about a 25% drop, or I just take the 25 pound off that I have added to the stack. You'll notice the way I do rows, I mentioned this before, but coming up, getting a big stretch, leaning forward. I have the chest pad set back as far as I can so I can get a big stretch. And as I come back and flex my whole back, just more bang for your buck. And I'm never trying to over isolate anything because I think that's silly. Why not get back growth over your whole back instead of just trying to isolate one muscle group? And this eliminates me having to train my spinal erectors because I get my spinal erector stimulus. So that concludes my AM session. I did 1 drop set there, and then I called it quits. Came back in the evening, and the first exercise I did was a barbell spider curl. Now, the reason why I have the spider curl in here is because, sorry, I actually trained biceps like 2 days before, and the bicep variation I do about 2 days before is a very stretched bicep exercise and a higher rep range. Now, I strategically placed the spider curls here because they are a more shortened bicep exercise, meaning they bias the shortened position when the bicep is contracted more, and they are in a lower rep range. So it's likely that they're going to be hitting different muscle fibers. So if the type of muscle fibers I was using on Tuesday are still fatigued, they're still recovering, it's not likely I'm going to be straining those out as much as I'll be hitting more of the faster twitch muscle fibers today. So this way I'm able to do more frequency by strategically picking these exercises. And then the next bicep exercise I might do is another bicep exercise that goes back and biases a higher rep range, more of a stretch, slower twitch muscle fibers. So this is a strategic way in order to have a lot of frequency and really distribute your volume so that your biceps are getting hit, or any muscle groups really getting hit more frequently. Paying attention to the loading range, paying attention to the actual part of the part of the movement that's actually getting biased, such as the lengthen or the shorten position. Those are ways in which you can potentially input some more frequency into your program. Here, I think I ended up doing about 3 sets, which was enough to get me a good amount of pump going in my biceps. And this is pretty straightforward. You'll actually see that I do lift my elbows just a slight bit, just because the biceps don't get fully shortened unless you lift your shoulders slightly. And I come all the way down, controlling the eccentric as much as possible. Next exercise is one you've probably seen me doing a lot. This is the cable lateral giant set. So what I did was I actually, during my maintenance phase, rotated this movement out so that I could rotate it back in during my mass gain phase. So giant set, I'm doing about 50 reps here or so, getting a big stretch. Giant sets, as I've mentioned before, are a metabolite intensity technique, which allow you to focus on a total rep target without any regard for the number of reps every single set. They are a way for you to be able to focus on your mind-muscle connection and your technique without having to worry about hitting a certain rep target week to week. You just have your total rep target, and that's basically your goal week to week. So there are 2 ways in which you can approach a giant set. You can actually go until you feel like technique starts to break down, or you can go to your RAR target. Some exercises, I do feel like as I get closer to failure, my technique starts to break down, and so I may stop it. Sometimes, like if I'm maybe a little bit worn out or actually really tired, I may actually choose to do giant sets in a way in which I go until technique starts to break down, because I feel like any further reps would not be quality. Stop the set, rest 45 to 90 seconds, usually 45 on smaller muscle groups, and then I go right back into it until I hit my total rep target, repeating that process until I hit my total rep target. Really, really good pump here, really good amount of disruption. I mean, the cable laterals for me, like, they are my delts are like throbbing after I get off this exercise every time I do them. And it doesn't really take a whole lot of sets for me to do them usually, especially on my rep match. When I do the my rep match later in the week, I think I do like 2 sets, usually 2 to 3 sets, and my delts are fried. As you'll notice, I have kind of this like X grip. So the reason why I grip across instead of gripping the handles right on the same side is because this allows me to get a little bit of stretch in the deltoid and the side delt. The deltoids are designed in a way in which they don't get a lot of stretch under load. And as we have been starting to see in the research, stretch under load is a big promoter of muscle growth. So any time you can make a variation that allows you to get a little more stretch under load, it's probably better for muscle growth. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Coming up, kind of doing like an X raise, coming up, reaching up as high as I can and just contracting the delt. And you'll see the last exercise is this forearm wrist curl or roll up or whatever you want to call it. It's basically this apparatus you'll see probably in the second clip that is a bar, and then there is a piece of like, I don't know what it's called. It's like a bar attached to something that carries a weight plate at the bottom. Man, I'm not great at describing what this thing is. Just look at what the fucking thing is and you'll see what it does. Basically, there's a piece of metal at the bottom, and you can load weight onto it, and then you basically roll it up. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to focus on weight progressions, because this is really hard to like, you know, count reps with how many wrist curls you do. I guess you could technically do that, but basically I'm doing it to where I can do 1 full roll up, and then over the weeks I'll add 2.5 to 5 pounds to that basically. And I think I did about 3 sets here. I'll probably end up doing like 4 or 5 maybe sets at the end of this training cycle. I don't really rest a whole lot in between forearms, abs, calves, a lot of these smaller muscle groups, just because they recover so quickly. That'll be it for the vertical focused back day. You'll notice that I did my horizontal pull, the machine row, in a higher rep range because earlier in the week I do the horizontal pull in a lower rep range. That is that same technique I was talking about where if you train in different rep ranges, the other muscle fibers are allowed to recover in between, and it allows you to input more frequency into your program. If you like this video and this video style, please comment down below, leave your feedback. I have a lot more training videos coming, and I'm going to be collaborating with other people, doing more training with friends and clients and things like that. So stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for watching.